The world changed in an instant. One moment there was strategy, calculation, and movement through controlled space. The next, everything was swallowed by a blizzard so absolute that the world itself seemed erased. White, silver, endless cold. It was the kind of cold that didn't merely bite at flesh but threatened the existence of the soul itself. Even for Rimuru, a being who had already surpassed most definitions of life, the air felt hostile enough to freeze his heart solid. That was the first clue. Cold on that scale didn't happen naturally. It didn't happen by accident. It happened because someone like Velzard had decided the battlefield should belong to winter. Rimuru understood immediately that this was no ordinary battlefield. The air trembled with presence. Power hung so heavily in the atmosphere that it warped perception itself. At the center of it all were two titans whose clash had already reshaped the terrain beyond recognition. Guy and Velzard stood locked in combat, their power creating a domain so catastrophic that even approaching it would mean annihilation. Rimuru saw it. Rimuru evaluated it. And Rimuru decided something most people would never consider in a war like this. He left them alone. Interfering would accomplish nothing. This was not his fight. Not yet. There was anger somewhere nearby, a presence that seemed insulted by his refusal to acknowledge it. Rimuru sensed the irritation clearly, like someone silently shouting, "How dare you ignore me?" But that irritation meant nothing to him. Jumping into a battle just because someone demanded attention was the fastest way to die. Rimuru had learned long ago that survival in a world of monsters required something more than courage. It required judgment. And judgment meant choosing which fights mattered. So he kept searching. Argos scanned the battlefield. Signals of conflict appeared everywhere, scattered like fractures across the world. One of them revealed Diablo engaged with Zerario. For a moment, Rimuru considered intervening. Then he dismissed the thought. If Diablo was there, interference wasn't necessary. But the thought triggered something else. Something small. Something suspicious. A realization that had only recently begun forming in his mind. Diablo had a habit. Whenever Rimuru was watching him, Diablo stopped trying quite as hard. The demon lord of pride and obsession had a strange tendency to slack off whenever his master might step in, almost as if he enjoyed watching what Rimuru would do next. Ciel analyzed the thought carefully and came to a quiet conclusion. Yes, that explanation was disturbingly plausible. Rimuru almost laughed. Winning a debate against Ciel felt like a rare victory in itself. Still, the battlefield didn't care about personal satisfaction. Decisions had to be made. Rimuru gave the order. Leave the outer battles alone. Head for Leon's castle. It wasn't a detailed strategy. It wasn't even particularly precise. But in emergencies, the simplest orders often worked best. Benimaru, Soe, Ranga, and Kumara accepted the command without hesitation. They understood what Rimuru expected of them, even when he said very little. Trust replaced complexity. They moved. The blizzard became a maze. Visibility dropped to nearly nothing as Velzard's magic contaminated the air with wild magicules. Even Rimuru's perception struggled to interpret distance. Normally, he judged space through the reflection of magicules off physical objects, but the blizzard had turned the entire atmosphere into chaos. So they followed the only reliable indicator left. Where magicules were being violently displaced, a battle was happening. That path led them to Leon's castle. Inside, the chaos sharpened into clarity. The moment Rimuru arrived, the intensity of the battle struck him like a physical force. Energy surged through the structure with such pressure that even a mind accelerated by haste and thought could barely process it fast enough. The scene unfolded in fragments of desperate resistance. Yuki stood at the front, burning through what little strength he had left. Laplace and Tyr supported him while protecting Cagali behind them. Cagali herself had once been the demon lord Kazalim, and the last time Rimuru had seen her, she had been enslaved by Kondo. Now she appeared free again, though the details hardly mattered, because something far worse was already happening. The enemy had unleashed a fireball so destructive it threatened to erase spiritual particles themselves. The attack had been enhanced by an ultimate skill. Its heat wasn't ordinary flame, but purified annihilation. In other worlds, such a strike could destroy souls. And it had already been released. Rimuru was safe. Azathoth devoured incoming attacks effortlessly. Benimaru was protected as well, but Yuki and the others had taken the blast head-on. Ciel began calculating solutions instantly. Perhaps Azathoth could consume the attack entirely if activated at once. Rimuru didn't wait for the explanation to finish. He gave the order. Consume it. The result was catastrophic. A violent explosion tore through the castle. Space itself warped under the impact. Light swallowed everything in its path. When the destruction settled, two presences had vanished completely. Yuki was gone. Laplace was gone. Rimuru thought he heard voices in the fading aftermath, words that might have been apologies or encouragement. I know I caused you trouble, but I never hated you. And now that you're here, everything will be fine. Maybe he imagined it. Maybe he didn't. Yuki had always been troublesome. Laplace had always been unpredictable, but they were also people Rimuru had begun to understand. One had come from the same world he once lived in. The other had slowly become someone who might have been a friend. And now, they were gone. Rimuru forced the sentiment away. There would be time to mourn later. Regret without action would only insult the sacrifices that had been made. Yuki and Laplace had bought time. Their barrier, reinforced by Tyr, had protected both her and Kigali from total destruction. Rimuru secured them immediately, isolating their wounded bodies within his stomach, where Ciel could examine them safely. Rescue confirmed. Only then did Rimuru turn his attention to the enemies responsible. Feldway stood calmly nearby. Beside him was someone wearing Footman's body, though the presence within it was unmistakably different. Jahil, the one who had fired the devastating attack. Two enemies, two allies. Benimaru stepped forward before Rimuru could even finish evaluating the situation. Jahil, was it? I'll take you on. Rimuru sighed internally. Benimaru looked almost eager. There was no stopping him now. Feldway smirked. The encounter suited him perfectly. Rimuru drew his sword. Once he committed to a battle, he never hesitated. Long fights favored opponents who could adapt and counter. The safest strategy was decisive violence. End the fight before the enemy could respond. So Rimuru opened with his strongest move, Imaginary Blade. The technique was his personal finisher, born from the fusion of Void Collapse with swordsmanship principles inspired by Benimaru's greatest attacks. Instead of cutting spiritual particles, the blade devoured them, swallowing existence into complex space itself. Blocking it was impossible. Only dodging could save you. Or at least that was the theory. The blade struck and stopped. The air groaned under pressure as Feldway blocked the attack effortlessly. Ciel registered shock. Rimuru felt it too. Then Ciel calmly reminded him of something. There is a common trope in Shunin manga, Ciel explained. If you reveal a finisher as your first move, it will inevitably be blocked. Rimuru nearly laughed in disbelief. Of all the reasons for a failure, that was the one he least wanted to hear. Still, humor vanished quickly. Feldway's defense wasn't just luck. Something deeper was protecting him. Their swords began to clash. Rimuru quickly realized the unpleasant truth. Feldway was not only powerful, but skilled. In pure swordsmanship, he might even be superior. Magic wasn't a simple solution either. Large-scale attacks would devastate Leon's kingdom. The strongest single-target spells available, Disintegration, Nuclear Cannon, and others, were unlikely to break through defenses that could already stop Imaginary Blade. For the first time in a long while, Rimuru felt genuine uncertainty. And Feldway noticed. "You don't seem to be any threat at all," Feldway said casually. The insult stung more than Rimuru expected. Still, the fight slowed into a strange stalemate. Feldway wasn't attacking aggressively. Rimuru wasn't finding an opening. Their blades clashed in repeated cycles while both sides analyzed the other. So Rimuru did what he always did when brute force failed. He started talking. The battlefield around them revealed equally tense struggles. Benimaru fought desperately against Jahil, whose crimson spear radiated terrifying energy. The weapon, known as the Demigod's Blood Spear, possessed power that pushed Jahil's already overwhelming strength to absurd levels. Even with superior technique, Benimaru was barely holding on. Meanwhile, Leon fought a mysterious woman who resembled Elmizia almost perfectly. Their battle moved like a choreographed dance of lethal precision, each strike and counter measured to the millimeter. The woman suddenly addressed Rimuru during the fight. "If you have time to observe us, you could help." Rimuru admitted the truth. "I'm at an impasse here too." She introduced herself casually in the middle of combat. Sylvia, Elmizia's mother, Leon's former teacher. The revelation was almost absurd given the circumstances, yet the battle itself remained perfectly balanced, until Benimaru's voice cut through Rimuru's thoughts. "Sir Rimuru, I can clearly tell you're quite relaxed right now, but I'm in deep over here." Rimuru paused. Benimaru rarely complained. Hearing him sound desperate made the situation painfully clear. The battlefield was hanging on a fragile equilibrium. One mistake could collapse everything. Rimuru had several hidden cards he could still play: summoning demons, unleashing secret techniques, calling allies like Veldora. But every option risked escalating the war beyond control. For now, the only strategy left was patience. "Hold out a little longer," Rimuru said calmly. Benimaru's reply came immediately. "I really can't buy us that much time." The stalemate was cracking, and Rimuru finally began asking the question that would decide everything. What move could break a battle where every advantage had already been countered?